There's always a great opportunity to share new interests, new perspectives. And my next guest is going to be Mr. Winfield Strock. Is that correct? Is
Close
that how
enough.
that goes? Winstrock, I see so we'll keep it abbreviated. Um, and we're very happy to have you on here today, Mr. Strock. I don't think that I've had the pleasure of meeting you before. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is that you do and what your messaging is, and if you have a book you'd like to talk about today?
All right. So I served in the Navy for 23 years, and for that whole
Thank you.
time, I had considered my personal identity very closely associated with what I did for a living. And after I was done with all that, I ended up working at a flea bag hotel for minimum wage, and I realized that as long as I looked at my paycheck as my proof of my worth, that
Right, right.
it was going to change based on who would hire me. And so I realized I needed to craft an identity that I could take with me wherever I went, where I could do something that I could point at and say, this is me, this is something that I'm proud of. So that's when I started writing. And then shortly after I got out, I found out I had a brain tumor, and it took a while to get into the surgery. But once I came out of that, I'd realized that in the year that I'd been trying to write, I hadn't really taken seriously the learning how to do it well, learning how to do it right. So that's when I started getting into some books. I started going to some seminars, some meetings, and I started figuring a few things out there. And so I've put out about four novels. I've put out a handful of short stories. My productivity has gone up and down with my passion and my depression, kind of going back and forth, warring against me trying to get things done. But got through that. And one of the things that I did was I joined a writers group here in the area, and it was a little rough. I was the only science fiction writer. I was the only guy, and it was kind of hard to get feedback that was germane to the kind of topics that I was writing in. And so after a little bit of a personality struggle there, I went ahead and started my own. So I've got one down here in the swamp, and we meet and we share our victories, our defeats, our everything that we've picked up along the way, with the idea that we're all going to help each other get better. Um, I grew up a big fan of the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's writings, Star Trek. I like the idea of these fables, modern day fables, if you will, that are set in a world and with characters that are so far from our own that you can put a universally understood concept in front of people, and it's not as obvious which side you're already on. I mean, we all start with a certain amount of bias, and the I feel like the game plan in things like the Twilight Zone was to get you to see a moral dilemma without any attachments to preconceived biases uh, to the characters and the situations involved. And so that's one of the things that I'm kind of drawn to in science fiction and in just speculative fiction in general. But then I'm also a big fan of history. I kind of like the idea of interweaving history and fiction. I grew up watching Doctor Who on PBS, and I like the idea of mixing the two. So I do a little bit of that. What I've got here it was inspired to some degree by C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letters. And this is it right here. This is, oh my gosh, I can't, oh my gosh. So it looks backwards to me, but it's SoulGrifter by Winfield Strock. It's on Amazon. And it is about, well, it's about kind of what a lot of our lives are about. It's about someone who makes a mistake, and then they make a bigger mistake trying to cover up the first one, and it just gets worse and worse. I've heard this saying that the first step in trying to get out of a hole is to stop digging or to put down the shovel. And that's kind of where this character is at, as he begins life as an orphan, then he ends up being a thief, and then his thieving ends up putting him at odds with a demon, and in order to save his life, he agrees to work for the demon. And so he spends the next 200 years trying to figure out how to either trade up or trade out of that relationship. But yeah, in discovering my passion for writing, I've discovered that I take a lot of interest in understanding other people's passions. And for those people that I see, after the hotel gig, I started working for a defense contractor. And it was a very, very boring job. It was the best job I ever had in terms of pay, in terms of benefits, but it was very, very boring and just drudgery. But a lot of times when people are like, man, how do you handle this? I'm like, well, I do that so that I can do this. And I would point to the books that I write.
How have your experiences in writing these books changed you and your perspectives? I mean, you get to experience a lot of things vicariously through your books, and I love the notion of how people have a knack for continuing to dig the hole, even though they can't see outside the top of it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And I want, I guess I just want to share the kinds of stories that interest me and they kind of tickle my brain, and I want to write them in a way that they tickle somebody else's brain the same way. Um, I've enjoyed going to science fiction conventions, some various book signings, meeting some other people, and helping them realize that that they've got a passion that they haven't fed in a while, and I like to encourage them to explore where their passions and their talents
Trying.
intersect, so that they can do something that's more gratifying than getting a paycheck and paying the bills.
When
Sure.
we're trying to keep it at 9 minutes, you're eating the other person's time pretty.
Oh, okay.
So
Sorry.
All
sorry
right.
about that.
Thank
Robert,
you.
welcome to come in at 9 minutes, and then that way you can make the segue to the next person. Otherwise, the next
Appreciate
person
it.
get that opportunity.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you, Win.